Hey, this is Burn the Haystack with Josh and Jesse.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. It's good to be here.
Our first one.
Very first one.
Quite exciting. We also sort of know what we're doing.
If you're listening to us for the very first time, welcome. If you've never met us before, welcome.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Before we get into this episode, this is the very first one, so it would be wise probably to introduce ourselves, to say exactly what it is, who it is that we are, and
Yep. So both of us are pastors full time.
Yeah. We are both Australian.
Yes, but both living in New Zealand.
Yeah, both living in New Zealand, same city.
Yeah. So it's a small world.
It's So yeah, we're a bunch of pastors who live in New Zealand, minister here in the North Island in Palmerston North.
We work for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So we're pastors technically in two different churches, but it's all in the same network.
Same denomination.
Yep.
Yeah. Quite a conservative denomination on the most part.
Yeah, well, traditional.
Traditional. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean every church is different. So yeah, we're quite an eclectic bunch of churches, really.
Yeah.
And both of us are young. Well, I think we're young. According to the teenagers think I'm pretty old, but I feel young.
We're in our late 20s.
Late 20s.
Well, mid 20s. I'm in my mid 20s. I'm exactly mid 20. Josh
I've just begun.
Josh is in his late 20s.
Yeah, 26, and I'm in my late 20s, guys.
It's all downhill from here. It's all downhill from here.
It's a laugh and a cry at the same time. And yeah, we're both pretty normal people as well. We have hobbies and interests. So Jesse, what are your hobbies and interests?
I love a whole bunch of different stuff. I love to cook. I love food. That's probably where it all started. And I've recently started enjoying cooking. So just made myself some beautiful roasted veggies with watercress salad and some chicken just before with some harissa. So that was beautiful.
It did smell pretty good.
Yes.
I had a nibble.
Yeah.
It was he is quite the cook. So if you're listening and you need a cook, some cooking advice. I don't.
Yeah.
Probably watch Jamie Oliver.
Watch Jamie Oliver. Don't listen to me.
Yeah.
What about you, man?
I love music. Currently working on it a lot and practicing. I just love all things music, listening and creating.
Just so that we get this out of the way, for those of you who might be wondering, all the music that you hear on this podcast is by Josh.
Well, not just me. I also have a audio engineer I work with, Christian Polisco. Shout out. Over in Melbourne, my original jam buddy. We've been working together for a long time. I am trying to get him to put out stuff. He's a genius. He's just like, he's behind the scenes a lot. But man, the guy is amazing. So yeah, it's enjoy the tunes. And if you like it, we'll keep busting out more, I guess.
Absolutely. Even if you don't like it, I don't really care. We'll probably just keep doing it anyway.
That's true as well. Yeah. And both of us, we both love pop culture as well.
Yeah.
We love memes.
Yeah.
Both of us play the odd game, I think, since working full time and both being married as well. Not to each other.
I do a lot. Yeah. No, not to each other. Yep. To female women. But yeah, no, we're both gamers at heart, but we do find less and less time to do it. But we both grew up on, the classics, Crash Bandicoot and Age of Empires and great stuff.
I was more of a Nintendo
Mario
guy.
You're a Nintendo
that's where
guy.
I come from. I did switch to Xbox for a while, but
But now you've switched back to Nintendo.
Back, yes.
Yeah. Very
Nintendo
jealous.
Switch.
Very jealous.
It's, everybody needs a bit of downtime, so it's nice and wholesome. Honestly, though, I hardly get time to play it. I try to fit it in when I can, but anyway, and so we're, I guess, normal guys. A lot of people, when they meet pastors, they think they're
There's a very specific image.
Yeah.
Grey-haired, sweater vest maybe with a,
That's what I need,
collar.
a sweater vest. That's what my
gosh.
wardrobe is missing. sweater vest.
I have most of my wardrobe is very casual sports style gear, and then the rest of my like actual pasta wear is very, very small. Like, we did not fit into that picture at all.
Yeah.
I think probably mainly most of it comes from the fact that we are under the age of 30. Like that is, or even 40.
I'm still developing my business wardrobe, I guess.
Okay.
Coming along. But this is really uninteresting probably for most people about our wardrobe.
Okay. What do we want to, all right. This podcast, what is this podcast all about? Let's talk about that.
Yes. So we, it's an interesting name, Burn the Haystack.
Burn the Haystack.
So if you're from a Seventh-day Adventist circle, you may have gotten a little bit of a joke from this, if you're an Adventist, because a haystack is a common food that I thought everybody knew about, but it turns out is literally just an Adventist thing.
Yeah.
Basically nachos with lots of salad.
Yeah.
Generally vegetarian.
And if you think that sounds gross, then you are probably mostly correct.
No, it's pretty good. It's just good for, like, if you have like a potluck lunch or something, or a dinner, like everybody brings a bit of food. Haystacks are just the default. Like, you bring corn chips, you bring beans, you bring lettuce, you bring carrot. It just
that's true.
Easy.
It is quite a communal. It's quite a communal, traditional, quintessential Adventist dish.
And you can make lots of it, and it's really cheap.
Yeah.
And it actually is literally impossible to burn the haystack. I mean, when you're cooking it, there's almost no cooking involved except for the beans.
The only thing you can do is burn the bean mix, and even then, if you burn the bean mix, I mean. You shouldn't be anywhere near a kitchen.
You need to contact Jamie
seriously.
Oliver. Emergency.
Yeah, literally. but that's not the only reference to burning the haystack that we have thought of.
This is like an onion. There's layers.
There's layers to it, and there's probably layers that we're unaware of. But I was reading in my spare time the other day, because I like to read rabbinical law. And I came across a book on rabbinical law. So this, for those of you who are unaware, rabbinical law, it's Jewish law, traditional Jewish law from thousands of years ago that they've developed this law, this code of laws over thousands of years. And I found in volume 10, chapter 392. All right, so let's get this in context.
392.
I don't actually know how many volumes there are of this particular work, but this is volume 10, and this is chapter 392 of volume 10.
Okay.
And the title, the title of the chapter is "A Dog Carries a Burning Cake."
Pretty everyday situation there.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it when dogs carry burning cakes around.
So for those of you who are wondering, of course, this section is all about animals who cause damage to people's properties.
Right.
So look, I'll just read the chapter and then we can talk about it. A dog takes cake, eats the cake, and starts a fire. Reuven's dog, so we're setting the picture here. Reuven's dog goes into Shimon's yard. You got to say Shimon. Shimon.
Get over here, the dog. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
I'm eating here. Reuven's dog goes into Shimon's yard and takes a cake from a burning stove. Okay, so Shimon has a stove and there's a cake cooking on it. A burning coal is embedded in the cake. So the dog takes the cake because the dog is like, I see a cake, it's food, I'm hungry because I'm always hungry because I'm a dog.
It's a dog after my own heart, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the dog takes the cake, then the dog places the cake down on a haystack in Shimon's yard. He eats the cake, and the burning coal, remember there's a burning coal embedded in the cake, sets the haystack on fire. Reuven then must pay full compensation for the cake and for the section of the haystack equivalent in volume to that occupied by the cake. But wait, I know you just like on the edge of your seat, but it gets better. For the rest of the haystack, he must pay for only one half of the damage for the rest of the haystack. However, if the dog drags the cake over the haystack, eating the cake and burning the haystack as it moves, Reuven must pay full damages for the cake and the part of the haystack over which the dog dragged the cake. He is exempt from paying the balance of the haystack. Assume that the stove in which the cake was baking is owned by Levi, and Reuven's dog takes the cake and burning coal from there. The dog then takes the cake into Shimon's yard and onto Shimon's haystack. It eats the cake, and the burning coal sets the haystack alight. The results are the same as in the prior paragraph as to Reuven's liability, but Levi has no liability to Shimon. However, if Levi did not guard his stove, it's almost over, guys. It was easy for Reuben's dog to get to the stove and take the cake. Then Levi is liable for the burning of the haystack, and Reuben is liable to pay for the cake and the area of the haystack adjacent to that of the occupied by the cake.
So if you're sitting there wondering what just happened, it's okay. I'm in the same boat, I think.
I am too. And I've literally, that's probably the 5th time I've read that today. I still don't get it.
All I can think is, Shimon!
Shimon!
What are you doing?
Shimon and Pumbaa.
Shimon!
Kuna Matata. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, most of you, if you got through that and you're not asleep or dead by now, congratulations. And if that bored the hell out of you, then join the club. But this is kind of where we're coming from in our estimation of what we see as being wrong with religion.
It's a big core problem amongst the story. And it's that the whole thing is just trying to unpack, okay, who's in the wrong, who's in the right?
Yeah.
And it's like all these things. And it's like, wait, why is this a part of the like rabbinical law? It's such an obscure situation.
Yeah.
Just,
and look, both of us are pastors, and we're not likely to lose our faith anytime soon unless we have a major crisis of faith or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're saying, religion sucks, we got to get rid of it. There are great things that religion does for our world.
Yeah.
But we are not blind to the fact that there is a lot of stuff that religion gets wrong. And this is part of it. This is a big part of it.
There are some problems that get created through, I don't think necessarily purposefully.
No.
Sometimes, I think often it's just through through the system, the way the system's set up.
Yeah.
And often, like, down the road, it can lead to a lot of problems. And I think one of the major ones that sort of this leads to is kind of an immaturity.
Yeah.
In that we don't really let people understand and make up their mind for themselves. It's like, here we have to lay out all of these things for you. And okay, so here's so if a dog, carries a burning piece of cake, here's who's in the wrong, here's who's in the right. But if the cake wasn't protected well, then here's, it's just bizarre.
It's trying to create some sort of contingency for every situation. And that's what we sometimes like to do as religious people. And like, let's just own it. As Christians, that's what we try and do. We try and create contingencies for every situation. I mean, think back to when God, if you believe in God, originally gave the law to the Israelites. How many commandments were there originally?
10.
Oh, thank you, Josh. there were 10 commandments, right?
Yep.
That's everybody knows that. Even if you're not religious, you know that. 10 commandments into hundreds of commandments, and with the sole reason of creating a contingency for every situation and creating a system, essentially, where people become trapped and strangled and repressed by not being able to do one thing or the other because it would break this law or that law, and just like it feels like the genie from Aladdin. How he bursts out of the lamp, and he's like, I've got this infinite power, but I'm repressed by this tiny little lamp. He's tiny little lamp. He's got incredible power, incredible agency, can do miraculous things, but he's a slave to the lamp.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what Christians are sometimes. That's what religious people are sometimes. Gifted, endowed with this incredible message, this incredible awareness of the spiritual and the transcendent, and yet trapped by the tininess of laws and regulations.
Yeah, and often part of the thing is like that, like as pastors, I suppose there's a lot of people who just they always, like, people come up and they're just like, okay, pastor, is this right or wrong?
Yeah.
Is this a sin? Should I be doing this?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to talk people through it. Like, I'm not against it. I mean, it's part of just being a leader.
Yeah.
Is people come and ask you questions. But there is a certain stage of maturity where I shouldn't have to be sitting there trying to make up rules for everybody. I should be able to just say, hey, well, like, what are the cool concepts here? What do you think about it? And letting people make up their minds on things that maybe in light of the scripture are a bit more grey rather than black and white.
Yeah.
And so I suppose for us, we really want to develop maturity, but in ourselves and also in our listeners, as far as spiritual concerns go.
Yeah. And what we'd like to be able to do throughout the course of this podcast, through all the different topics that we'll cover, the people that we're going to interview, and all the other stuff that we're going to talk about, we really want to be able to invite you, the listener, whether you are religious or irreligious, into a new sense of freedom. Whether you are a religious person and you feel constrained or oppressed by the systems and the architecture and the institutions that you belong to, maybe you feel like there's something more when you read the teachings of Jesus and you see this figure who is so free and who is so just not careless, but I guess carefree in the way that he deals with people, and also transcendent. Obviously if you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and yet there's this thing about Jesus, this coasting above the waves spirit and mentality that he seemed to possess so incredibly effectively that he didn't get sucked down into the reeds of the religious authorities of his day.
And if you are irreligious, you're not the religious type, and you're just got a prying ear, and you're willing to learn and grow, first of all, you're so welcome here. This is not a
We're not trying to convert you, Bible bash you. Like, that's not what this is all about.
And we're not just aiming this at Christians. Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of our audience will be of that faith. But, I mean, this is open to anybody. So, first of all, you're very welcome. This is not just for people who already believe. This is for anybody willing to listen and learn. And we want to invite you into a spirituality that is, just like what Jesse was saying, is free. A lot of people look on at Christianity and they like a lot of things about it, but the idea of it caging them and forcing them into a box can be quite scary for a lot of people, so they kind of never buy in.
Yeah.
And we want to invite you to say, you know what, there is actually more than what you're just seeing. It's not a cage. It's not trapping people in. There is something bigger. Maybe you've seen some things in the past that have troubled you, but we want to look ahead and build a future and a religiosity, a belief in Jesus and a walk with Jesus that is freeing. And
we believe it's possible. We believe Absolutely. It's possible. We've seen it. We've experienced it for ourselves. We are still amongst a lot of the old and the new, the ebb and the flow, and we still struggle from time to time. So this is not us telling you how great it is and telling you what you have to do. This is about a learning experience that hopefully helps us all.
Yeah, and I guess a conversation. Yeah. We're not here to just tell you what to do and tell you what to believe.
This is a discourse.
Yeah,
it's a discourse.
Absolutely. Good word. Jesse uses lots of big, great words.
Well, discourse is this incredible word because it's not just conversation. It's something that's open and evolving.
Right.
It's something that you invite people into. So it's a conversation. Sometimes it's just between two people or several people. But discourse is this awesome concept. I just learned this recently from the great Pete Rollins. Who discourse is this idea where you are having a conversation, but you're ever inviting more and more people into it. So it's an evolving, growing conversation.
That is a cool word.
It is a cool word.
That is great.
I think it's Greek or something.
Really? Sounds English to me. Okay, sorry. Anyway. So guys, I mean, if Jesse ever says a word that you don't know, or on the off chance that I do, but I use very basic words, let us know. And Jesse can unpack it for you.
There are two Bible verses that we want to share with you.
Yep.
The first one is John 8, verse 36, and both of these are quotes from Jesus. So the disciples of Jesus later wrote these accounts of Jesus' life, and John, one of his apostles, said this, Jesus saying, "Who the Son sets free is free indeed." And that's really sort of this, and the next one is encapsulating everything that we want to be doing.
Yeah, and Mark, the second chapter of the book of Mark, so Mark 2:27, the verse 27, and it's Jesus talking, and it's kind of just one of those moments where him and his disciples are doing something that the people who were big on the law, the Pharisees, they saw them pick out these grains from the field, and they got all angry because they're saying, look, you can't do that on the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is like this time of rest. We're going to unpack the Sabbath a fair bit in this podcast. So, if you don't understand it right now, that's okay. We're going to go on a journey with it. Basically, it's a time people should be resting and have these rules around it. And basically, Jesus just turns around and just, I love it, man. Jesus has got some amazing one-liners. Turn around. Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of idea that, and you can kind of apply it to all the law, those 10 commandments, that they're all actually made to better mankind, not to be a burden on us and to weigh us down, but actually to give us a more fulfilling and holistic and wholesome life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just an amazing idea. And I think a lot of people, they see the laws and they're like, oh, what a burden. But really, it's like, oh man, what an elevating thing for me. What a thing that could change my life. And imagine if everybody lived by that, we'd live in such an amazing society.
And I think that's the amazing thing about Jesus that's so compelling for me, is that he continually elevated himself and others above the petty and the menial and the mean and the nitty gritty technicalities. I mean, going back to that illustration that we used to open Burning the Haystack, our characters, Shimon and Reuben and Levi, these are men who are wrestling through the implications of a very simple accident.
Yeah.
The dog gets the cake, picks up a coal, burns some hay. It shouldn't be so complicated. And yet these men, God bless them, are trying to work through what the implications are. Who's at fault? Who has to pay? How much do they have to pay?
Yep.
What has to happen? What's the proper judicial process? In some ways, we want to elevate us beyond that, but it's kind of counterintuitive, because in that situation, I don't want to be any of the men. I want to be the dog.
Get the cake.
Get the cake. The dog is so, like, it's a dog. It doesn't have consciousness in the same way that human beings have consciousness. So it's driven by instinct. But it sees a cake. It thinks, man, I'm a dog. I love cake. I love to eat. I'm going to eat that cake. And then it kind of unwittingly instigates all these other situations.
Pretty much like a Ben Stiller movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Just doing something that meant well, and then it's this array of just
spirals
horrific,
out of control.
Yeah, so
be the dog. Be the Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
And you could take all sorts of interpretations, but just the dog is unconcerned. And that's what I kind of want to be like. Unconcerned by the pettiness and the technicalities, and trying to just feeling the pressure of trying to live this life so that I don't do anything wrong, so that I make sure that everything I do is correct. And like, it's just a horrible way to live.
Yeah. But there is a more free idea. And that's what we want to push. And so for us, I guess the haystack thing as well, it's kind of what was it? What was the big word you used?
It's a double entendre.
Yep.
So
you can Google that. Nice.
Yeah. In this case, the double entendre is nothing smutty or sexual. That's generally what a double entendre is.
I didn't know. Okay, I didn't realize
It's
that.
a double meaning.
Okay.
But it can also be a little bit risque.
Oh, right.
As far as I know, we haven't figured out anything risque for this one.
No.
If you have any ideas.
It's a double meaning is a better word. So let's not go. Okay, anyway. And the haystack for us, I suppose, is because the haystack has become like this just hilariously, Adventist thing. That it's like everywhere you go, people are like, what's for lunch? Haystacks. And then everyone kind of giggles and laughs.
Yeah, so, it's a giant in-joke that the whole Adventist church is in on and nobody else. So it's one of those weird things.
Yeah, so for us, it's kind of this idea of like burning the haystack and just saying, you know what, let's try something different, and just like putting, and it's kind of funny because I don't know how much Jesse enjoys them, but I really like haystacks, and I don't have anything. I don't have anything against haystacks.
I think nachos are the superior dish just in terms of its construction, but I can appreciate getting some greenery, getting some tomato and some cucumber and some lettuce, and like that's a good thing. But on the other hand, you could just have nachos and a side salad. That could be possible.
Get away from the microphone.
Sorry.
But for us, it's just kind of this like fun idea, and also engaging idea for us of just saying, like, what if it's not just this tradition? I mean, what if we can go to someone's house and, we've burnt the haystacks. What are we going to do instead?
Yeah. And let's be real. There are so many. If you're a Christian, especially if you are an Adventist Christian, if you're not, that's cool. But just think about this for a moment. there are so many voices speaking into what it means to be a Christian. There are so many voices that speaking into what it means to be an Adventist. And in many cases, I'll just say this, some of those voices are really unhelpful. Some of them are destructive without naming names or anything, but some of them are just purely, completely unhelpful and dangerous. And I don't mean dangerous in the heretic sense, but dangerous in the sense that they can really mess you up if you actually go down the garden path with a lot of them.
And I don't think it's an intentional danger. No. I think it's just a reality that like some people, they stay immature by listening to things that aren't healthy. And I don't know, it's not like we think we're the perfect voice in this.
No,
but we just want to build maturity. So I suppose we have some questions we want to unpack just on the name, just to think about. And I mean, if you think through these questions, we'd love to hear some of the thoughts that you've had about this. And you can message us. We have a Facebook page. Yeah. That you can.
We're on Twitter and Insta and all that.
Everything. So yeah, get in contact with us. I mean, if you're discussing these things, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah. But it's like, what are things that you do? What? Sorry, just losing it.
Just take a breath, Joshua. It's gonna be
What
okay.
is that voice? Okay, why?
It's my Auntie Carol voice.
Auntie Carol
/ Yeah, no, I'm not gonna go there.
Okay, why do you do the things that you do? Like, really? I mean, especially in a religious term, I mean, a lot of us just do a bunch of things and we never stop and ask questions. Yeah. This, and it's not just answering it, because it's easy to answer it with a cliche answer or with something that somebody else has told you. Yeah. And you repeat it and regurgitate. Yeah. But if we actually sit and unpack, well, why do I do this particular act? Why do I do this particular religious action or this tradition?
Yeah. But I mean, if you can ask that question of yourself and give an answer, that's great. But if you ask that question of yourself and your answer is, I don't know, then just own that. Yeah. Just own the fact that you don't know. And that's something that everybody struggles with. I know everybody's got an ego. Everybody wants to be the man or the woman or whatever however you might say that. But if you don't know the answer to the question, just own that, man. Don't pretend.
I remember asking someone, I was like, why do you kneel? Why do people kneel when they pray? And they honestly had no idea. They're just like, that's just what you do when you pray. Yeah. And so, I mean, it was great because all of a sudden they started thinking about it. And it took them a while, to be honest, just to have some idea. Why do people kneel when they pray? Yeah. Something we see on TV all the time. They put their hands together and they kneel. It's such a classic prayer pose. Yeah. But really, you can pray in lots of different... You can pray at any time. So why do you have to kneel? Yeah. And letting them unpack it and that's just one example.
And the other thing as well is asking yourself the question, are you doing things in your life that you've done your whole life, or maybe you've done for a while, and they're not working, but you're still doing them just because it's what you do, it's tradition, it's just how things are done around here, it's just what we do, it's just what they do, and so we go along with it. Like, is that part of it for you? Like, honestly, answer that question for yourself.
Yep. And here's the exciting thing. When you begin to ask questions like this, we're not sitting here saying we need to get rid of all traditions. No. Because Jesse and I actually keep quite a lot of traditions.
We do.
We both we do a lot of things like that. And anyway, I think one of the most exciting parts is that when you begin to ask these questions, sometimes you come back to a tradition. Sometimes what happens is people leave a tradition and they end up coming back to it. Yeah. And it becomes even more meaningful than ever before. Yeah. Because all of a sudden they've realized why people do it, what the history is behind it, where it's come from, and they actually own it. And it becomes so meaningful every time you do this tradition, every time you partake in it. All of a sudden it just goes right to your core because you're like, this means something to me now.
Yeah. So in some cases we want to burn the haystack. But in other cases, we want to reclaim the haystack, because there are some things that should be burned. We should just kill it with fire, and we should get rid of it and throw it away and pretend like it never even existed. Yep. But there are other things which are beautiful and meaningful and have so much power in them, latent power that has not been tapped into. And all it will take is for us to reevaluate, speak into that tradition or that practice or that idea, and to reclaim that.
Yep.
and to reclaim it in a way that actually works and that is actually meaningful for you as an individual.
So let's push forward. Let's ask questions. Let's draw deeper and not be afraid to burn a haystack or two.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Josh and Jesse out! Thank you.